All right, guys, a fun video here today. Real short, just like this gun. And this is the first SBR I ever built. It's built off of a Mark 18 barrel. And it's just a fun gun to shoot, as well as a relatively reliable firearm for a Mark 18. And that probably has something to do with the Deadfoot Arms MCS system that we have here. It's a system that allows the gun to fire from the folded position, and it also does some things with the spring weights to, pretty much help the short guns operate a little bit better. If you guys aren't familiar with this thing, I have a link in the description box down below to a full video that we did on the thing, and you should definitely be aware of this one. But anyway, the other day it finally quit, and I didn't really have the time to commit to doing a field expedient diagnosis, so I threw it in the safe, and I finally took it out about late at night last night to start diagnosing the problem, a month later. And with any Mark 18, you should always start at the gas system, because if you own one, Mark 18 problems, that's probably where the problem lies. Did the gas block rattle loose? Did it dump the roll pin? Did it blow the gas tube? Did it chew itself up there at the back? If you've owned one, So, however, it looked fine. So I put the whole thing back together, rock set it back in place. Oh, and by the way, I wanted to side note, the Midwest Industries Gen 3 rail, there was a stink a little bit ago, probably 2 years ago when it first came out, about them including adhesive to apply to the rail, about how, wow, their system, their tension lock system must be like really weak or something like. No, it's just an added measure. And let me tell you what, I've never put it on any rail except for this one, because I was like, oh well, what if I want to change out the rail? All right, so this time I wanted this gun to be rock solid, so I followed the directions. Yeah, that stuff, it took everything in my toolbox. I did not go to the acetylene torch, right? But I did go to the propane torch to get that sucker off, because man, I tell you what, that stuff was pretty tough, I have to admit. But side note, so what I did finally figure out was the issue, and this is a mil spec part, but I'm gonna show it to you like this, is the extractor broke. And I'm gonna show it to you like this, assembled, right? And everybody, I'm gonna push up on this thing, everybody checks that part right there. When they check their extractors, see if it's busted or something like that, they always check the claw to see if it's got some damage to it. And I've seen people actually pull bolt carrier groups out of the gun, take a look at them, be like, oh, it's fine, shove it back in there, right? Which is actually not the malfunction, or excuse me, parts breakages I see the most on extractors. Everybody looks at that. Think about it, guys. That is the part that grabs brass on steel, probably not likely to cause a huge problem. However, what did break here, and if I can't get a good picture of this, I will roll in a tight one as well. So if we look at that, we've got a crack on that side where the pin goes through, and then we've got a very large section missing out of that. And what that ends up doing is causing the extraction to be very, very weak. So when you palpate it, this thing, even with that enhanced extractor strength spring on there, right? See that little gasket thing that's designed to increase the extractor strength? Even with that, I was able to grab hold of the thing and basically, if I can get the damn thing back together, go like that and see it move inside the gun. And that's how I knew that something was up to begin with. But that is, generally speaking, where I see extractors break the most, not up here on the tooth. So the reason I came out here to make this video today is to talk about weapons maintenance. So weapons maintenance should be frequent, which I'm not the poster child for that. I'll admit that. Do as I say, not as I do, right? I'm terrible at that sort of thing. But when you do your weapons maintenance, make sure that it's thorough. Don't just half-ass your way through it, because something like this, a little tiny parts breakage like that, can ruin your day. We're thankful that this was not during like a training class or something like that, because that would ruin your entire day of training if you didn't have an extra one of those. And we thank God that it did not happen when I actually needed the gun to work. It was just us screwing around out here on the range. So I'm not saying that every single time you clean your gun, you need to detail strip your gun and take all the trigger components out and stuff like that. However, when you go to do your preventative weapons maintenance, fully disassemble the gun maybe once a year or something like that. Check all the components for anything that could down the line become a major issue and replace those parts when they come to them. These guns are designed to have their parts be modular and replaceable. So now that I've spent all that time talking about all this, we'll see if I actually fix the problem. So we've got some Fiocchi 55 grain here, and we're just gonna see if I can't light up this target. Am I in? Yeah. We'll see if, man, that sun's bright. We'll see if I fixed her. Yep, I would call her fixed. I would say that that was the problem. All I did to fix it was take a mil-spec bolt. This one's actually a nickel boron that I hawked from a spare bolt that I had in a spare parts kit, and throw it in that gun. And as you can see, she works fine now.